Welcome back, everybody, to Jedi Eternal, episode 33. We are getting up there. Today, I'm your co-host, Braxton Taylor, here with your other co-host, the illustrious, the indubitious, if that's not even a word, the beautiful Andrew Bolin. I didn't have a special name for you this week.
I'll take it. I'll take the beautiful. That actually means a lot to me.
I couldn't remember if I was leading in, and you told me I was, and I'm like, I don't have the name come up for you this week, so whatever.
I loved how when you said 33, you look so uncertain.
I'm like, I was thinking something. I'm like,
I could see the panic in your eyes.
I'm like, forget it. I'm just say random adjectives and go from there.
Yeah.
Andrew, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. I don't know. We always do this kind of like faux intro. Me and Andrew have been talking for 2 hours about nothing. We're like, we probably should record the podcast today.
Yeah, well, in our current stages of life, we normally only see each other when we do this. So,
yeah, and then even then, we might have to like come in and record it real quick and then
leave. Luckily, today was one of those days where we both knew that we didn't have any other plans.
Yeah.
So we could take our time, and so that's what we did. We've been sitting here talking for 2 hours already before we started.
Unintentionally,
before we hit the record button.
And we look down, it's like, well, for us, 5 o'clock is good. Yeah. 3. I'm like, it's 5 o'clock. I'm like, are you kidding? Anyway, so, yeah. So, yes. But anyway, we are excited to be back today for episode 33. Today we have a lot of stuff for you.
Yes.
And we have already been talking for 2 hours, so I'm afraid it's going to be go long today. But we're going to intentionally try to, explain the stuff, talk about it, have fun, stuff, but kind of get through it a little bit quickly because we have, 5 news pieces, 5 rumors, 3 really big, good questions.
Yeah.
And
we are going to try, but no promises.
We're going to try. Let's just go ahead and dive right into it instead of talking about it forever. So our first news piece for today is about The Mandalorian. It's kind of like a dual piece here. But Mandalorian Season 2 will have Episode 1 as Chapter 9. That's what's going to be listed as. So everyone was kind of curious as to how the episodes of Mandalorian was going to go. So was it going to be Season 1, Chapters 1 through 8, and then Season 2, Chapters 1 through whatever. But no, it's actually going to start Season 2, Chapter 9. So it's going to be just kind of right after, supposedly. I don't know about this part. I'm assuming this kind of means that we're going to be getting right after Chapter 8. That's kind of what it's coming to my mind too.
And from what we've heard so far, it sounds like it probably does continue directly after the ending of the first season. There might be a time jump at some point during the season, but it sounds like it's going to start right at the end there. For me, I think the biggest takeaway from this is that this is just more confirmation that this is one large story that they're telling.
Right.
It's not like a storyline per season type deal. Like they're wanting us to look at this as one large overall story.
Continuous thing, yeah.
Which also, in my opinion, kind of makes me feel like there probably may already be a planned ending for this. The fact that they're calling it chapters, this is Chapter 9. I wouldn't be surprised if they already know what the ending is for this show.
So you mean for the whole show?
Yeah.
Well, then that kind of gives way to some credence for one of our rumors.
Exactly.
Which we'll kind of harken back to that when we get to it. But that, I was just saying, for me, I do like that they're making this Season 2 Chapter 9 because it kind of just gives us continuity to everything that we're going to be seeing with, it's not these standalone stories that really don't add up to anything. It's actually this continued big, arc in the Star Wars universe, Right. With that being said, there's also a second part to this. So we have, like I said, the Season 2 will continue with Chapter 9. But we also know that after every episode, with that following Monday, there will be an official day for Mandalorian merchandise and content reveals. So like I said, after every Friday when the episode drops, that upcoming Monday will be dubbed Mando Mondays, where, like I said, they're going to drop merchandise and things of that nature after every episode. So... Pardon me. That tells me, and it's something that Drew and I had talked about, this tells me that there's going to be some big surprises in this season. Because think about this. We did not see anything merchandise-wise for Baby Yoda until months later because they wanted to keep it such a secret.
Right.
So for me, if they're going to be waiting to drop merchandise until after every episode, that tells me that there's going to be some big stuff coming. So whether that be... Boba Fett coming back or Ahsoka or what have you, there will be some stuff coming in. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, and so another thing to add to this is that it is confirmed that these will be released on Fridays. So we will be getting it weekly on Fridays. And so it sounds like the plan is they're going to have an episode, and then that following Monday, they will release new merchandise that kind of focuses on what you saw in that episode.
Right.
And that what that does allow for is, just like you said, for us to get that Boba Fett reveal on the show, and then that Monday, here's some new Boba Fett merchandise. Or,
exactly.
Here's the Ahsoka reveal on the show. Monday, here's your Ahsoka merchandise, of course, that is if they're in the show.
Right.
So,
that part is rumor.
Right, right. But I think there's a lot... I think it's a good idea. It's better than... I think this is their way of addressing what happened last time, where they had to basically wait on Baby Yoda merchandise for quite a while because they didn't want to start production too early and it get leaked out.
Whatever. Well, and to me, that kind of like, just my perspective, it really lost momentum. Everybody still loves Baby Yoda. It's still a huge thing. But during that crazy initial phase of like, oh my gosh, Baby Yoda, you know, they could have made a lot more money.
Yeah, I think they would have sold tons if they had something available right after. And so doing it this way, there will be that new stuff to buy right after a new reveal on the show. And my only question, I guess, with it is, how are they doing it differently this time to keep things from leaking?
Right.
And, because that was their big fear. And so somehow, I guess, they feel confident enough to because, I mean, like, for example, if there is Boba Fett stuff, if there is Ahsoka stuff, if that got leaked, it'd be huge.
Well, I have two thoughts on that. A, they have an NDA probably signed with the manufacturing company. Like, hey, we're going to be working exclusively with you. But because of that, you're going to have to sign this NDA and make sure, like, hey, nothing gets in and out. Or B, it's one of those things where I don't know this for sure. I'm just kind of speculating, but I guarantee you that Boba Fett stuff and Ahsoka stuff, just to name two, are being produced right now. Boba Fett and Ahsoka are both popular characters. Like, even if it's not related to the show whatsoever, I'm still, there's some stuff that are being produced. So therefore, if someone sees that, they may not say like, oh, that's Mandalorian 2, unless it had the specific packaging.
Right. Well, and a lot of times it does have the packaging.
Well,
and
true.
That's where if either of those characters are in Mandalorian packaging, it's going to be kind of obvious what that means. But so it's just kind of it's a cool idea. These Mando Mondays. It'll be cool to see what they drop every Monday. And kind of go from there. I'm sure I'll end up buying something from it. So
I'm sure I will too.
But let's move on here. Our next news story here is Star Wars writer teases epic and wild scale of the High Republic projects. So they had an interview, Hollywood Reporter had an interview with the Light of the Jedi author, Charles Soule. And they were just kind of talking about this new novel and just the High Republic in general. And he had some things to share about it. So I'm just going to read some of this to you. He says, talking about the novel, it's a disaster movie. It's a mystery. It's a race against time team on a mission story.
Yeah.
So what's that say for you?
Well, we already know that the great disaster has to happen somewhere through here. And this is something that Drew and I have kind of speculated after they had dropped the first chapter of the first book there. We had read that. In fact, we even dissected it here on the podcast. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and go back to episode whatever it is. I don't know. It don't have in the title. But we had kind of called that probably after the first chapter. That's when the initiation of the great disaster probably occurred. With that being said, this is just kind of my opinion. More than likely, the first chapter has that one main character. She was the ship pilot or whatever. Into that chapter is the initiation of the great disaster. Second chapter very well might go back again in time to before the great disaster and like hit on these other characters. And then at some point at the end of all these chapters, within the very first book, the great disaster is going to come. So all that being said, it kind of makes sense, right? Whatever this great disaster is, whatever kind of thing that this leads to, whether that be some kind of catastrophic event multiple enemies coming in to do something bad, whatever. It is pretty cool that they got this team of people like running against the clock to get, whatever that may be. I don't know. It's just very exciting to
just the idea of like disaster movie and mystery, intrigues
Michael
me,
Bay.
all that. I mean, yeah. There's gonna be a transformer that's gonna pop up. No,
random explosions.
Yeah, and then he goes on to say, Light of the Jedi will finally open the doors to the Star Wars, the High Republic for Star Wars fans. It is the first huge piece of the actual story my High Republic collaborators and I have been building for years. A lot of the teases and such that have been released so far are focused on the character designs or the state of the galaxy, but I can tell you that we've all spent most of our time on the story itself. Light of the Jedi, Into the Dark, Test of Courage, the Marvel and IDW comic series, they're really what the High Republic is. It's an amazing new time period for Star Wars, but it's the story that will get fans hooked. And so, having the responsibility of introducing that story with the first novel out of the gate, I'm thrilled that I got the opportunity, and I took it very seriously. The scope of Light of the Jedi, and the fact that so much is sort of keyed to it, I'm obviously aware of all that and knew it when I took the job. Is it a little intimidating? Sure, but I really think it inspired me to work at my highest level. I'm very proud of the book, and I can't wait to see what people think.
Yeah, that sounds pretty fantastic.
It sounds good, doesn't it?
I mean, and someone like Charles Soule saying that, anybody can say those words, right?
Right.
But someone to the caliber of Charles, I'm excited. He if he says it, he means it.
Right. He's got some other interesting things here I'm going to read.
Yeah,
he says, my personal mandate for Light of the Jedi was to explore genre in a way we hadn't directly seen in the franchise. To bring the concepts of Star Wars to places that would feel fresh and cool. Then he goes on to say it's a disaster movie, like he was saying. He goes, I also wanted to try some new things within my own novel writing style, experiments with pace and tension and intercutting and the way secrets get revealed. The structure of the novel is unusual in some ways, but I got that from the Star Wars films, really. If you break down Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, the timeline doesn't make a lot of sense, but it still works. Light of the Jedi has some of that going on. It's elastic. The story can stretch and pull as needed, and then at the end, it all snaps together for what I hope is a big punch. Every one of the High Republic projects is different. They reflect the sensibilities of their authors, but they're all part of the same larger story. What I did with Light of the Jedi isn't what Claudia Gray did with Into the Dark, for example, but I think that's good. Each piece of the High Republic tells its own story, but is also part of the larger initiative.
So for me, that kind of confirms what I was thinking, right? Is that ultimately they're all these stories are going to meet up at the Great Disaster.
Right, so he goes on to say a little more about that. You want me to read that first before you get into that? Because I think you're going into that. He goes, one of the primary concepts of the High Republic Initiative is the idea that there are certain key events that happen at the same time across the storytelling. It's a lot like the way the destruction of the first Death Star in Star Wars A New Hope has been seen from endless angles since it was first depicted in the first film. Those are all mapped out. There's a document with all of it laid down. The Great Disaster that opens Light of the Jedi is one of those. I thought it would work because of the things you cited. The idea of having a lot of people involved in one event that operates on a galactic scale seemed very appealing. I could introduce a large cast in a very organic way in various locations from the highest levels of galactic government to the Jedi on the street as they respond to the disaster. So,
yeah, I mean, that something like that gives each character, I don't want to say legitimacy because you can still be an illegitimate character, but it gives them all a foundation to work off of, right? They all have something that they're all coming to meet up at, which is this, right? The Great Disaster, whatever that may be. Each character may not have a huge part in the story, but they all operate off the same basis, that they're all experiencing different parts of life, and then but yet they're all experiencing this one thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, first of all, it's fantastic writing, style. I don't know what the word would be, saying like it's a great story plot to make all characters seem relevant. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think it's going to be really cool to see all these different perspectives of the same thing. And I think that's one of the main things that they're, like I said, they kind of mentioned it, echoing off of the explosion of the Death Star and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that really was a key focal point of the original trilogy. Right. So I think it's going to be really cool to see this in a different way.
Yeah, and then to end it, to cap it off, he says, it all begins with Light of the Jedi, the heroes, the villains, the worlds, the concepts, the weirdness, the sacrifice and heroism and tragedy and inspiration. It all starts with this book and goes to incredible places. The scale of this whole thing is wild. This is not small. It's an epic from start to finish. Can't wait to see what folks think.
Ooh. Yeah, it sounds pretty awesome. I mean,
yeah.
He
really sold it to me.
I think for me, anytime that somebody is very excited about their own work, it's going to come through, and people should be excited with them, because anybody who's excited about delivering something for you will typically be reflected within its own work. You know?
And we've already seen Charles Soule do amazing things with Star Wars in the Darth Vader comics, and we've also, we know Claudia Gray's involved, who has again done amazing things with Star Wars. We know Kevin Scott is involved, who has done awesome things in Star Wars. We have this fantastic group of storytellers,
right? Exactly.
that are telling this whole new era of Star Wars, and I couldn't be any more thrilled.
Well, and it's not even just a bunch of writers, but it's also it's a group of accomplished writers, people who know what they're doing. Yeah. And that by itself speaks for itself. Speaks volumes for itself. People who are not only very skilled and accomplished in their craft, but B, also people who are very just excited and looking forward to creating this new era of Star Wars.
Yeah, and the most exciting thing about it is to remember that all of these novels that have been discussed and shown to us all take place similar times, and are all circled around this great disaster. So it's only the very beginning of the High Republic.
Right, exactly.
We have yet to see the full. And when we first started talking about this, we kind of explained it in phases, right? Like this is phase 1 of probably a lot of more phases of this High Republic, kind of like MCU,
right?
And this is phase 1, and I'm excited to see just how much bigger and how much more they expand this story.
This makes very much sense to me. It's kind of unveiling before our eyes here, but it's something that we've talked about. Is that yes, this is phase 1, and there's not going to be any TV shows, no video games, no movies, right? But it makes very much sense for the books and the comics to set a foundation for the world, so to speak, right, for this time era. And then once and they all end at this great disaster. But boom, once all of those are done and the great disaster is established from all of these different viewpoints, phase 2 kicks in. And that, after they have evaluated what there's a big enough audience from phase 1, is when they're probably going to be able to start saying, okay, you know what? I think we could probably move into some video games. I bet we could probably move into a TV show, an animation, whatever it may be. Because now we have the foundation built. There's a big enough following. People like it. Now we can do this.
Right. The stories are liked enough. I guarantee you we're going to see more in different formats.
Yeah, guaranteed.
But yeah, I'm so excited to get this book. January, everyone.
Yeah.
So we still got a little bit of a wait, but I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be worth it.
This will probably be one of the first Star Wars books in a while that I've read completely through. Guaranteed. Because this is something so completely new. It's got me so excited for it. So someone, and then that speaks for itself, right? Because someone who, like me, doesn't read the books all that much.
Yeah.
Someone who's that excited to read it all the way through. I mean,
it says something, right?
It says something, yeah.
And speaking of High Republic, we also got a new look at a lightsaber from the High Republic.
Yes,
and it is very,
awesome.
Very cool looking. If you check on our Facebook and our Instagram, we actually posted a picture of that.
Yep.
So you can actually go look at it there if you're listening now but haven't seen it yet. Just Jedi Eternal. You can go check it out there. But it is the lightsaber of, I'm going to try to say his name, Stellan, how would you say that last name?
Probably
Gios, something like that.
Giosis.
He is, they talk about who he is somewhere here. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background.
Keep it down.
He's the Padawan of Rana Kant.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Basically, he has developed a strong connection with fellow Jedi Avar Kriss, which we know is the kind of sounds like the main character of all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still uncertain on that. We have not read it, but they've really talked her up a lot.
Yeah.
And so anyways, he's kind of got a connection there, but kind of, if you check out the lightsaber, it definitely, the first thing you think is, okay, this is, it's got a similar feel to Kylo Ren's, except just even more old, right?
It's like, it has like the
crossguard.
Crossguard is like actually metal.
Yeah. But it retracts. So like So I think the way it works is like when activated, the crossguard comes out.
Exactly.
And it has this thin like lightsaber, like laser that comes across that.
Exactly.
And then you got your normal blade.
Which for me, when I'm thinking of like a lightsaber's crossguard, that's actually like the perfect design, because from the holders, whoever's manipulating the saber, from their point, they're not going to run their hand into the stinking plasma, because it has the metal that comes up. But yet when a lightsaber comes down, they can block it with that because it has the saber coming out. So
I absolutely love the design.
It looks fantastic.
It's amazing. Like I hope to get one of these because they're going to sell this, right? Like they have to. They got to sell this somewhere.
Well, and also the design is it harkens to the High Republic, right? It's very grandiose. It's very
that
detailed, gold and white and black, and just so many like little ornate details. It really fits into that era.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool that it says he has a longer hilt on it than usual, and the purpose is to do it two-handed.
Oh,
so he can
like a broadsword type thing.
So that's pretty awesome, isn't it?
That is gonna be.
So
sick.
I think I'm gonna like. I really think I'm gonna like this character based off of his description, and he kind of has that. He's giving me some like Kenobi vibes a little bit with his longer hair and beard and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's gonna be that very traditional Jedi hero. I'm hoping because it even talks about how he like kind of likes to stick to the teachings of the Order, maybe a little more so than his other friends. And he says. It says, Geos is regularly the voice of reason amongst the three, focused on upholding the Jedi tradition.
So definitely a Kenobi character.
Definitely kind of like a Kenobi character, which maybe they're trying to trick us. But
maybe,
you never know. But
who knows? It falls to the dark side.
Yeah, you never know. But I think I'm going to like this character a lot. I'm very interested to learn more about him. But
yeah, I love his saber design. If nothing else,
nothing else about this character,
he has a fantastic saber. So a lot of really cool stuff to look for as we conclude our news for today. Sorry for the voice break there. As we
he's been talking for a couple hours.
Yeah, I'm really like I don't talk hardly at all during the week, and I come here to talk for 2 hours. But anyway, so as we conclude our news, I just want to say be looking forward to High Republic. I guarantee you they're probably going to be dropping more stuff between now and then. Almost guaranteed, just because of the delay and everything, just keep everybody kind of hungry for it. So a lot of cool stuff. So as we go into our rumors, we have 5 of them this week, so that's awesome. And so the very first one is a very interesting one that we've been talking about for a while, but some new info has kind of surfaced, so it's still not necessarily a news, because as you guys know, we do not consider anything news that doesn't come directly from Star Wars and or LucasArts, Lucasfilm themselves, right? If it's not from them, if it's not, or Disney, whatever, if it doesn't come from them, we do not consider it actual news. But this is probably as close to an actual news piece as we're going to get in rumors, and that is Temuera Morrison, who plays Jango Fett, who's in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, who is modeled after, they model all the clones after him in look and stuff like that. They say that his agency has, quote-unquote, confirmed that he will be coming back as Boba Fett in Mandalorian Season 2. So this is something that we've been talking about for a long time, but what is interesting is that supposedly his agency has confirmed it to whoever this person is, or this news group is.
Yeah.
So Drew, do you have any more on that?
Yeah. So it was posted on a casting site, and it shows his name, Temuera Morrison, and then it shows Boba Fett, and it actually says. It also says, as far as directors go, it says various. Some people are saying that means he's in a bunch of different episodes. I think it's more likely that it's just because the show is directed by a lot of different directors.
Right.
But Jason Ward from Making Star Wars, he said that to this day he has not recalled any of those listings ever being faked. And I guess he's actually been looking at this place for many years now to get casting news.
Wow. Yeah.
And he says, as far as he can recall, he's never seen one to be fake. And so there's some credit to that. I will say,
Yeah.
I looked at this myself and did notice that they did not have the N in Jango Fett, and it was just Jago Fett, and
Right.
so I thought that was a little weird, but
Yeah, discredits a little bit. But
yeah, I mean,
whatever.
I guess it's not a huge deal, but it does make you kind of wonder.
Right.
But I mean, listen, it's all but confirmed that Temuera Morrison is in this in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly.
And it's all but confirmed that Boba Fett is most likely making an appearance in this show as
Right.
in some way, at some point,
way, shape, or
right?
form. Yeah.
Again, so like all of this is just a waiting game at this point to figure out exactly how it's happening.
Yeah.
But so yeah, is this probably true? Probably, but again, we don't.
Could it be just flashbacks of Boba Fett in there?
We don't confirm news unless, like you were saying, it is. It's been established by Star Wars to be accurate, and they've not talked about this yet. So we will not talk about it as being official news until they do, or until we see it for ourselves.
And most likely
on the show.
That's what I'm saying. Then most likely they're not going to confirm this. It's going to be something that shows up on the show.
Right. I mean, surely they're going to hold this out for the show itself, right?
That would be a huge drop. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. To conclude that rumor, just to say, like, this is as close as it gets to news, but just continue to know that it's a possibility that it's not.
Right. I mean, it could very well still be fake. It could be.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but let's go into our second rumor. And our second rumor here is Lego Star Wars leak could reveal release date for the Skywalker Saga game. So, as we know, unfortunately, the game did get delayed into 2021, but we had not heard a new date yet. So a site, let's see if I can see what the site's called. It's a Polish video game site.
Very accurate.
Which,
usually.
Yeah.
That's our usually go-to.
Which it showed an Xbox pre-order option for the game, and it showed May 31st, 2021. Now, before you get too excited, there's a good chance that it could be a placeholder. The reason I wonder if it's a placeholder is because I went and looked for myself at that date on my calendar, and May 21st, hold on a second. That was May 31st, sorry. May 31st, 2021 is a Monday, and I don't...
And it's the end of the month. A lot of times they put placeholders at the end of the month of a video game. You know what I'm saying? So, or for a video game, should I say.
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway, while Drew does whatever he's doing here, anyway, long story short, there's been a lot of games that are coming out or getting ready to come out. For instance, this is not really Star Wars, but it is, I guess, space related. Is Halo Infinite. And I'm very much into this game. I very much like Halo. I like to play it, and they're supposed to come out this year, but due to delays, they've been pushed back. And one of the pre-order on Amazon or whatever, it says December 31st, 2021. And people are like, oh, well, that's the new date. That's the new date. And then basically everyone's like, no, that's just a placeholder. And even the creative director of Halo Infinite is saying, he's back.
We're all good. I all of a sudden a little thing came up on my laptop saying that my laptop was about to die. I forgot to plug it in, and I was frantically running to grab my charger because if it died, then we would have just lost all of this.
No,
so,
well, okay.
we're safe. We're safe.
So just to finish what I was saying, he had to come out and say, like, this is just a placeholder. They have to put something, and typically they always put the end of a month on a random month, right? So the 31st of whatever, right? So with that being said, this is very possibly not the right date.
Right,
but it is interesting.
But it could potentially be that month, right?
It could potentially
or in that
be May.
area somewhere in there,
right?
Which kind of makes sense.
We've heard spring of 2021 multiple times.
Yeah, so I think this could very well be around that area. I do not think it will be that day because games don't release on Mondays.
Exactly.
Ever. They release on normally Tuesdays or Fridays. When it comes to big releases, you're going to see a Tuesday or a Friday. I can't think of a single Monday big release of a game. So
right. Yeah, I would be very surprised if that were so. And hopefully for all of our sakes that this comes out actually sooner. It'd be awesome to see it in April or something like that, or maybe even early May. But yeah, so keep your eyes and ears up for that. It's just cool that we got that drop a little bit, and we'll get more information as we get closer, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So our third of our 5 rumors for today actually is another rumor from our faithful conspirator and intel giver
from
here.
the rumor mill himself.
From Mr. Rumor himself, Giancarlo Esposito. He's had another interview and he's saying even more things now. So I swear, like, all of this comes out to be true. He's the worst. Like he can't keep a secret. But anyway, so technically, Giancarlo, quote unquote, confirms that Mandalorian will have at least 4 seasons. So, of course, again, confirmed being sarcastically said with quote air quotes that you can't see, because this is a rumor. But after his talks, he believes that there's going to be kind of extension of a story for season 1, season 2, season 3, and then everything's going to come and end nicely in season 4 at the least. But Drew, do you have that quote for us, or do you have anything?
Well, yeah. So what he says is, we're living in a universe that is huge, and there's so much to explore. So I think the show is going to lay the groundwork for the depth and breadth that's going to come in season 3 and season 4, where you're really gonna start to get answers.
Yeah. So he's not even like saying like, oh, this could happen. He's like, this, get ready to see season 3, season 4.
And well, the thing is, it's not unrealistic to think that he at least has a script for season 3. Right. Because there's actually already talks of that happening soon, of them starting to work on it soon.
Right.
And so, and there's, he might have an idea of where they would go into season 4. They would probably talk to him about his character, his role, and different things. Or, on the other side of it, he could just be speculating that, hey, the show's big, it's doing well,
and why wouldn't they go?
Why wouldn't they continue 4 seasons?
Well,
and of course, as you get farther along, it's pretty well figure that they're gonna start revealing things more as you go along. So
surprise.
So
anyway,
it could be either way, really.
I will say that this is a speculation that actually has been going around since the end of season 1. If any of you remember back in like December, January, people were talking about there being 4 seasons, and I don't remember who this was off the top of my head, but for whatever reason, the number 4 came up. So it's interesting that he says 4 on this one. And secondarily, Moff Gideon does seem to be a fairly large character, unless he kills him off in season 2, which I doubt that would happen. Unless they have bigger plans, I don't know. But Moff Gideon seems to be pretty big, so like you said, if he is big and it's going to last for more than a couple seasons, then he probably would know. So it's definitely not unrealistic to believe that this is real. It's definitely probable, but it is still a rumor. So
I think they should go 5 seasons.
Or 6, or I don't know.
I think they should at least go 5 seasons. You know why?
Yeah. Why?
Because we would end up with chapter 40.
Ooh, yeah.
That'd be your last episode, right? If they're all 8. I'm not super good at math, but I think that's the case.
Yeah. Well, if you had 8 seasons every time, yes, it would be 40.
8 episodes. Yeah.
Well, chapters, whatever. Yeah.
Because if you end on chapter 32, come on.
It's not even. It's not nice. Come on. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, exactly. So it is.
Might as well just have Jar Jar Binks in there, right? Just bring him back.
Apparently he might be in Kenobi. You never know.
with this little beard thingy. I haven't heard any more about that since back then.
Thank God, I hope not.
Well, actually, I think that was part of the old script that they've done away with.
Well,
right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, everyone's like, what? We're not getting Jar Jar Binks with a beard? Are you kidding me? And they're like, oh, we're going to have to rewrite this for creative directive issues.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, let's go ahead and move on.
Anyway. Okay, yeah. So this is actually pretty big. Toby Haynes, who has directed some of Black Mirror, which some of you may know of, he is actually going to now be directing the Cassian Andor series in place of Tony Gilroy.
Interesting.
So that's kind of a pretty big deal there. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. He's going to at least be directing the first 3 episodes. So what happens from there, I'm not real sure. But basically, Gilroy had to step down because of COVID-19 related travel reasons. So he was not able to travel to the location. Yeah. So they've brought in someone else. And as we know, that actually can change a lot when you bring in a new director.
We're very well aware of that in sequel trilogy.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I'll be very interested to see where this takes it.
Right.
Just the fact that this is a director from Black Mirror is interesting.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know what episodes he directed of Black Mirror.
You might be able to try to watch all 3 of those and get a little look into his style or whatever.
As some of you may know, Black Mirror can be a very disturbing show. So I'm interested if this is if they're trying to go for maybe a darker route or. Which from what we gather, this could very well be quite a dark show just because of what it's going to be based around.
Yeah, I assumed if there ever was going to be a darker Star Wars show, it probably would be the Cassian.
It'd be this one.
The underground and just the kind of the scum and villainy kind of thing.
It's kind of like Rebels still just trying to.
Yeah,
I mean they're at the very beginning still.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah. So anyways, it's interesting. Not really a whole lot to talk about there necessarily.
But it's something to be aware of, for sure.
We just wanted to bring it up, and we'll see. Again, we are not calling this news because Star Wars hasn't been like, hey, check it out. This director is taking the place of it. At least not as of yet when we recorded this episode.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're actually talking about it in rumors. But I have no reason to believe that this is not real.
Right, exactly.
But we'll see.
So, yeah, definitely interesting to see what happens there. But our last rumor for this week...
this is we always love to give you guys a big, crazy one for you.
Crazy one, yeah. So, there has been talks, as we have judiciously announced before on our rumor section, that there has been talks of a Rey film that, and when I say solo, I was confused about this too when I read it, but a solo Rey film, meaning like by herself, just her, not with anybody else.
Nothing to do with Han Solo.
That was my confusion. I'm like, wait a second, what? Yeah. So there's been rumors that there would be a, Rey by herself film, and there's even rumors of like she'd have to face this evil clone of Yoda, and that was a pretty crazy one. So this week, on this week's next up rumors is that the Rey film is still occurring, is real. In terms of a story, they don't mention anything, but what they do say is that Broom Boy, as we see on the end of episode 8, correct?
The Last Jedi. Yep.
Yes, Last Jedi. Is being casted as the character or the guy who played Cyclops from the X-Men movies. So that's pretty interesting.
Yes, young Cyclops.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
yes,
from First Class.
Yeah.
And those movies. Actually, he may not have been in First Class, but he was definitely in Days of Future Past.
So basically, the premise, and Andrew will have more on this, but the premise of this movie is that Rey will be teaching a new generation of Jedi or Force users or whatever, and Broom Boy will be one of those that she trains. So Drew may have some more for us here, but
his name is Ty Sheridan. Is who? Man, was I wrong about that too? It looks like maybe he wasn't in Days of Future Past either.
Oh, this is embarrassing.
This is embarrassing. I'm so sorry, everyone. It looks like it was X-Men Apocalypse.
This is going to ruin the podcast.
Well, that's unfortunate for that guy because that was when it started getting pretty bad. Like First Class and Days of Future Past were actually pretty good movies.
Right.
But sucks
Apocalypse
for him.
really went downhill quick.
So sorry to tell you, pal. But anyways, yeah. So this is just a rumor, but they're saying like he's going to come and play the character that is Broom Boy. Which actually does have a in-canon name.
Whoa.
It's Temuera Blagg. So
interesting.
But what they are saying the story will be is the movie will reportedly focus on Rey training a new class of Jedi, of which Blagg will be a part.
Yeah. Well, that would be interesting if true, I guess. I mean, it just seems like there's not enough there to really constitute my saying, oh, this sounds legit. You know what I'm saying?
For me, it's this divided news we're getting of like we're getting reports of we're doing away with everything sequel. We're just pretending like it never happened. We're focusing on all other things. The sequel trilogy is basically going to be left in the dust. We're not going to talk about it anymore.
Right.
And then we have this other side of it where like, oh, we're actually going to continue off of that. And it's like, which direction are
they
they really going? Or are they just doing both? You know, are they going to have a whole new focus on this Mandalorian stuff but yet still do some stuff after the sequel trilogy? Personally, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Because the more Star Wars, the better. I have no problem with continuing Rey's story.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be all about facing Sith anymore. It can be about her training up new Jedi and just it doesn't have
evil clone Yoda.
That was one of the rumors, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I forgot about that already. So maybe it will be crazy. Maybe we don't need this. You just changed my mind when you brought.
This might be exactly what we need.
When you reminded me of evil clone Yoda, it just hit me. We don't need this to happen. Even though I will say, I am intrigued. I would actually like to see this evil Yoda clone.
I don't know. What's that quote? It's like,
it'd be horrible
I'm disturbed,
for the story,
but I'm intrigued. It's like, but I'm disturbed as well.
Oh, I heard a good one. I heard somebody. This is just speculation. This isn't rumor or anything. Somebody speculating on the Mandalorian, and they said that Yoda, Baby Yoda, in the Mandalorian, so the child, as they refer to him, is actually Yoda. Okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it is. They're saying it is Yoda. They say they're trying to trick us into thinking it's not, but they're going to take him, and they're going to go into the world between worlds, of course, because that had to be created. So now that's everyone's reasoning for everything.
You can come up with anything. At
Thanks,
this point.
Filoni.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. The only thing I really disagree with you on is this one right here.
But anyways, so they're going to take him. They're going to go into the past and drop him off at the doorstep of the Jedi Temple, and then they're going to raise him there, and then that's how you get Yoda.
No.
Oh no! You should see Braxton's face right now. He's considering it right now.
No, that's disturbing.
I mean, no, that can't be it.
So
it can't happen that way.
If it did, I would.
However, they
are
in a little bit of a pickle. You know what I mean? When you think about the character of Baby Yoda, we've seen already how powerful it is in the Force.
Yeah.
How are they gonna get away with telling the story and that character not be around during the sequel trilogy?
There's only one way. Go to the past.
Take that baby
Back
drop
to
it
the
off.
Future, baby.
That's right. Back to the Future Star Wars style. Drop that baby off in front of the Jedi Temple.
900 years ago in front of the Jedi Temple.
That's how. Oh. Here we go. That's how the High Republic ends. Oh, I am so sorry. That just probably blew people's ears off.
Oh, gosh.
I apologize. My dog heard something. I'm so sorry.
It's an evil intruder.
But anyways, like the end of the High Republic, all of a sudden they're going to see little Baby Yoda sitting there.
That would actually
They're going to see the back of Mando walking through a portal.
Oh, my gosh.
And there's going to be a little baby Yoda sitting there on the steps.
I would be so mad. Honestly, I would be so mad. I would not want that at all.
Oh, okay. Anyways.
Yeah, we better move on. That's getting crazy up in here. After you guys put some swabs in your ear holes after they started bleeding here. So anyway, that concludes our rumor section for this week. A lot of crazy stuff. But like I said, we always love to report on everything, even semi-major.
For better or worse.
For better or worse, whether it seems real or not. We always love to report on it just to make sure that everybody, if you've been curious or you've heard it yourself, you've heard it straight from, the source, right here. Jedi
right
Eternal.
Here, Jedi Eternal.
The source of Star Wars truth in this great big universe. So, anyway, Drew, go ahead and take us on to our releases for the week.
Yes, so for our releases, we have Dr. Aphra 4 and Star Wars Adventures, The Clone Wars, Battle Tales 5. It's a long one. Are both coming out on Wednesday. Dr. Aphra is a pretty interesting series, so some good things there. I actually haven't read the newest issue of Bounty Hunters because I'm just not into it at all.
Wow.
Like, I'm probably going to read it, but I just don't have any urgency to read it.
Yeah.
And then you guys know how I feel about adventures. I don't have to mention it every time, but yet I still do. So anyways,
yeah.
But we actually have something else being released that is not a comic book.
Whoa.
Would you like to know what that is?
Oh, I want to know.
It is Star Wars Squadrons releasing for Xbox, PlayStation, PC, I believe.
I was just trying to give you some sound effects there to kind of liven it up.
That's nice.
Yeah, thank you.
So, and to go along with that, yours truly here at Jedi Eternal.
Yes.
We are going to attempt to stream.
Operative word there.
Yes, very significant input there on the attempt to stream that for you guys this weekend. Most likely Saturday, I assume will probably be. We actually have not discussed like exactly when we're doing it.
No, we have
but
not.
Probably Saturday. I figure will be our best time to attempt that. Most likely.
Yeah. Today is Thursday. We are still trying to. We just got our recording stuff in. We haven't even attempted. We're just going to do after this podcast, I guess. But
yes, so we are going to.
Again, very heavily operative word is attempt.
We just got our equipment, so we are going to work on that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we have what we need to make it work, and we want to spread the love, show some new Star Wars game, and kind of share the experience together. We're gonna play. You guys can watch and also talk to us as we play, and we'll all just experience it together. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it's
and
gonna be
maybe
really cool.
Some of you can join in with us.
Yeah,
if you guys are playing online, you can jump in and we'll all play together.
Yeah,
so
that'd be cool. Really cool. And like on our first night, we may try to do that. But like if not, we'll definitely have some designated nights where we do that.
Right. Yeah.
So
we'll just see how it all goes.
Because like I said, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is our last episode before that will be happening.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if you guys are listening to this, check out our Facebook. Because that's where you'll get the news on exactly how and when we do that. The reason we don't have anything official yet is, like we said, we're still working on.
Yeah, we don't want to say a specific date and then like it not work out
or time, because we may not even have the. We're still working on how it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
So pay attention there, because come next Saturday, if we can do it, then we'll actually already have a new episode out. But that episode will be out before we do it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Or after we do it. So basically what I'm saying is you're just going to need to check out our Facebook.
Yeah, just look at the Facebook and we'll guide you from there.
Yeah. But anyways, hopefully it's going to be a fun time. So if you guys are interested, go and pick that up. It releases on Friday. So again, that is when you can pick that up, unless you're part of EA Play. There may be a earlier time to do that, but
it's gonna be really cool. It's gonna be a great time. I mean, we may suck it up, but it's gonna be fun just to goof around, Drew and I being our goofy selves.
You guys will see how bad we are
see how truly bad we are at video games as we've grown old in our old age here. But no,
my reflexes just aren't as quick as
they used to be. Yeah, so anyway, it's gonna be fun, so keep your eye and ears out for that. So without any further ado, are we done on releases?
We're done.
Okay. So without any further ado, we're going to get into Q&A. We have some really good questions this week, but as we do every week, we ask each and every one of you on Facebook and Instagram, basically what questions you guys have for us. Do you have any questions, any topics you'd like to discuss? We always try to do 3 a week, and we got a couple here more. Actually, we would even have like 6 or something like that, but some of them overlapped and a few things like that. So we're going to be try to get every one of them except for like maybe 1 or 2. We'll push those to a queue. That'll be answered first next week. So without any further ado, this week's first question comes from Kristen Perry, who says, "Why did Obi-Wan Kenobi go by Ben Kenobi when he went into hiding?" So first of all, that's a great question, and one I'll get straight to the point here. We really don't have an exact answer to. As dumb as that sounds, him being called Ben Kenobi, that occurred obviously in 1979, I believe it was, in New Hope. And many years later, when they decided to create a prequel trilogy, all of a sudden, big, beautiful Obi-Wan Kenobi started bounding into the scene once more. And I think, personally, this is just my opinion, they changed his name to something a little more exotic, right? Obi-Wan rather than Ben. But with that being said, they didn't want to stray too far away from his last name, because here's the thing, right? You're watching the original trilogy. You got Ben Kenobi. if you change his name to Obi-Wan Dresden, I don't know, I'm just making something up on top of my head, right? Wait, is this Ben? Is this Ben Kenobi? Is this the same person, right? They had to keep some element of, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think it was just kind of a plot hole type thing, like what if he's really an, you know, good grief.
My goodness.
Andrew dropped something.
Sorry about that.
What is going on here? You're ruining this podcast. Anyway,
it's not the only thing I'm ruining.
Yeah, exactly. Long story short, I think it's just one of those things where they wanted to keep it as close as they could while changing it to keep familiarity with people who already knew about this, the story. But they couldn't change it too much, but they had to change it some. That's the only way, like only good answer I could personally give you.
Okay, well, I'll give you the closest in canon answer possible. And we know that in Clone Wars, I believe the episode's called Deception, he uses as a disguise name Ben Kenobi in that. So that's the earliest time he does it. And so when he goes into hiding, I guess he's like, I already used Ben Kenobi once, so I guess I'll just use it again.
Anakin already knows about it, so you might as well use it again, right? Trying to hide from him, so...
And so why specifically that I don't know, but I think as far as in canon goes, you have to think that, like, for the most part, for most of the galaxy, Kenobi means nothing,
right?
Know?
Yeah.
So, and he's on Tatooine, a very barren planet. He doesn't have a lot to worry about. Not even probably a lot of people he necessarily feels like he even has to tell his name to.
Right.
And so I don't think he was probably that concerned, to be honest. Clearly in real life, we know that it's not a good idea to use your last name. Right. But when we're just talking about Star Wars, I think that's just what it comes down to. I don't think he was that concerned. And you have to think, how many people did he say, I'm Ben Kenobi to?
Well, and I'll say this, most people who knew him, including Luke, who would have been the closest person to him, just knows him as Old Ben. Like, they don't really know as Ben Kenobi. They just know as Old Ben.
And it could be one of those things where he didn't tell everyone the Kenobi part. You know?
He just said Ben, you know what I'm saying, or whatever.
And I guess we'll probably see more of that. I bet they'll touch on that more when we get into the Kenobi series.
Yeah.
And just kind of how he goes about those kind of things.
Yeah.
And we have some comics about it as well that are canon. And if you're more interested in that, go check those out. It might tell some things. It's been a while since I've read them, so
yeah.
But it might kind of hint some of that stuff as well. So yeah.
As it sets, there's not really a definitive canonical answer like, oh, this is why he specifically chose this. But
Correct,
going off of our intuition, you heard what we said.
Yeah.
But
you heard it here first.
You heard it first. The most basic common sense answer. But no. Guarantee we're probably going to hear more about that as the show comes out. So
yeah, sure.
Just keep watching that, looking for that, and so we might get some answers. So great question. Our second question comes from actually Kristen again and Noah Aguilar, because they both kind of asked the same things. Kristen asked one last week, which was in our queue, and then Noah asked one this week, and they're essentially the same thing. I
want to say thank you both for asking questions. I always appreciate when you guys ask us questions.
We absolutely appreciate it. Yeah, it's the lifeblood of this podcast.
It truly is. It truly is. If the questions run out, we run out.
We run out of life and die. The end.
We just give up. So you guys asking us questions is what keeps us going.
So this is kind of really a hostage situation.
It's the fuel of it.
You're going to kill us if you don't.
So yeah, basically, like our fate is in your hands, and don't forget it.
Right. If we die, you know what the problem is.
It's all your fault. I'm kidding.
Anyway, all right. So I'm doing that. Anyway,
I'm not even gonna try to do it.
No, I could do that all day. Anyway, I'm not gonna get. Anyway,
hey, listen, Braxton's the voice actor here, folks. Okay.
Yeah. The mediocre voice man. Anyway, so Kristen asked, "What kind of droid would be your sidekick?" And Noah asked, "What model droid would you want to own in your real world today, or in the real world today?" So, Drew, go ahead and kick us off here. What do you think here?
Well, listen.
Okay.
I gotta go with the astromech. I gotta have me a little R2D2. That would be what my sidekick. Just because I just love R2-D2. That's my reasoning. But like,
yeah,
if we're talking about like what for like actual like purposes would be the most beneficial,
yeah,
probably something like HK-47.
Yeah.
Which is like the assassin droid, you know, like I could...
What do you plan on doing with HK-47?
Well, that's the thing. He could do basically anything. And so...
Weirdo. What's wrong with you?
So, you know, if I needed to assassinate someone...
What's wrong with you? This is a family-friendly podcast. Yeah, I'd try to get this droid to massacre my enemies.
The kids are... someone's driving their kids. Someone just picked their kids up from school right now, and they're going, Daddy, what's assassinate mean?
Well, son, William Shakespeare invented the word. Anyway, true fact. Actually, look it up. Anyway, I'm gonna cut you off and go.
Wow, okay.
You said enough. No, honestly, I would have to say I love a astromech. I would say over an astromech, I'd almost want a protocol droid more. Because it'd be cool to have one around the house and do stuff and stuff. But it's also cool because
HK-47 could do all of that and more.
Well, so I have another one, but protocol droid would be cool because they could translate all the languages and know all this information. Like that's pretty cool. It's kind of like Google, but also can do things in the real world for you. But my second one would probably have to be, I don't know the exact like designation of this droid type, but like K2SO. Which I know is like an Imperial like security droid, I guess, or whatever they're called. But it's kind of like HK-47, where it's like it's less assassiny, but more like
he's lift up Imperial security droid, as I think is what they called it.
Yeah, so it's like it's less assassiny, more of like he can pick up and do stuff, heavy lifting, but it could also like beat the snot out of somebody.
Yeah, HK-47 was an HK series assassin droid. Okay, is what they're called.
So yeah, I would have to say, like I said, either like a Imperial security droid or a protocol droid for me. So based off of utility and also so I can beat people up, I guess. So I'm not too far away from Andrew. I'm not going to kill them. I'm just going to beat them to a bloody pulp and break all their bones. Whatever. It's at least a little bit better of a life, I guess.
Daddy, can I beat somebody up to a pulp?
What does that mean, Daddy? Sorry, son. Okay, anyway. So, both great questions.
So sorry.
Yeah, we're being horrible influences. Our sense of humor, we talked about this before the podcast, our sense of humor is much darker.
I can hear it now. Like, we have some kind father that listens to our show, and he's like
I grew up listening or watching Star Wars.
He so enjoys listening to our show because we're so family friendly. And then he's listening to this one episode where we're going off the rails, and his wife's like, "You listen to this stuff in front of our kids?
Just garbage." Yeah, I was like,
no, just kidding. Shout out to all of our female listeners. We love you too.
Yeah, exactly. No, we really tone it back for this podcast. I just want to let you guys know that. But
we try.
We try. Sometimes it comes through clearly. Okay, so let's move on. So last but not least, our third question comes from Alex Mason, who says, what lightsaber fighting form do you think you guys would use? So I know for me, I never have a definitive answer, so I'll just pick my top two like usual for whatever reason that is. Obviously, Form 3, Ceresu is pretty awesome. I guess I'm kind of like a fanboy for Obi-Wan, so I guess I'm kind of biased. But honestly, I think Form 3 Ceresu kind of exemplifies what a Jedi should be, right? It's defensive. It's not meant to attack. So if you're standing strictly with like the Jedi, it makes sense to be Form 3 because, you're just defending. And if they're still coming after you by the time they've wore themselves down, then you can step in and attack at that point. But it's kind of like, hey, I'm ultimately defending myself and I'm giving you a chance to stop and like have some reason, right? So that's kind of like the main one I think I would use. But also I love Form 7, which is Juyo, which is Mace Windu's, where it kind of like balances the light and dark and they're super quick and powerful. And I like it just because just what it is, you're kind of balancing both the light and the dark. You're having power, but yet defense. You're super quick and agile, yet you're strong. Like it's just kind of like a great balance of everything. And I don't know, I just love that. It's kind of OP. So I do like that. But Ceresu or Juyo, Form 3 and 7, definitely my two top big ones there. So Drew, what about you?
Well, definitely 3, of course.
Yeah, I think we're kind of biased a little bit on that.
Yeah. And other than that, probably either 4 or 6. I like 4. It's as otherwise known as the aggression form.
Wow.
Which well, you know, I mean, come on. When you got that toy lightsaber in your hand,
you just want to beat somebody up.
You're nothing but the aggression form. Let's be real, okay?
So HK-47 and now the lightsaber. Man, is there some like underlying issues here that we need to talk about?
But 6 is you know is they call it different things, but the moderation form or the diplomat's form.
Yeah.
Honestly, in like all reality, I'd probably go 3 and 6, kind of like back and forth in that.
Yeah.
If I was a Jedi.
Yeah.
Which Obi-Wan was known to do both.
Well,
so
what did he do 6? Because I know, I knew he had switched styles and forms.
I think Obi-Wan did multiple styles, but
which I think most
a lot of
saber
Jedi
wielders
did.
do.
Right.
Right.
They learn. Styles. They usually learn a lot of the forms.
Well, first of all, you have to learn Form 1. Everyone learns Form 1.
Yeah, which some forms were off limits by a certain point.
Juyo kind of was. It was like the balance between light and dark, and like only Mace Windu could do it, I guess. You know.
Yeah.
They basically like no one else chance it.
Right. So, but that's probably where I would lean towards.
Yeah. So. Pretty cool. Great question. That's the one thing I guess we really never talked about that, like what form we would use. Honestly, I'd pick anything. If I could have the Force and wield a lightsaber.
If I could just have a real lightsaber and use the Force, I will use whatever form they tell me
whatever. You can tell me to do one. You can tell me to do anything. I don't know. Just tell me what. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was our last question, right?
It was our last question, yes.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into our main topic. We're already an hour in, but we will try not to linger too long. But we talked about a couple weeks ago about doing a book review for the book Star Wars Dark Legends by George Mann, and it's just a really cool book, and so we're gonna go all full spoilers in on this.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, we're not going to take any time with even a non-spoiler review because just for the sake of time. So if this is something you're concerned about getting spoiled for, then this is probably where you're going to want to go ahead and leave us. If you're not planning on ever reading this and you just want to know kind of what happens in it, though, then this is for you.
Yeah.
Or if you did read it and you just want to hear our thoughts.
Yeah.
So,
real quick, I'm going to just read the description of the book, so people who maybe have not even heard of this can get to understand what this is. But the description just says, "Read on if you dare." The end. No, just kidding. The unique in-world collection hollows the spooky tales and ghost stories that would have kept young Luke and Leia up at night. Created by George Mann and Grant Griffin, the same team behind the stunning Star Wars myths and fables, these 7 frightful fables have been carefully woven from the expansive fabric that is the Star Wars galaxy, including the thrilling landscape from Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland and Disney World. And last but not least, beautifully painted in a lush illustrative style and feels intergalactic yet innately archetypal and timeless. So basically, to summate, and Drew will obviously get into it, but this is basically a canon book, but it's telling fables. So did it really happen or not? They're ghost stories type thing.
Correct. And I'll let you guys draw your own conclusions. We'll kind of discuss what we think if each story. We're going to go story by story. Yeah. We'll talk about kind of what it's about, and then we'll decide like our thoughts on if it has real canon truth to it or not.
For sure.
So the first one that you start with is called The Orphanage. And this was a really cool story. You have this young girl who ends up being brought to this orphanage. Her name is Elish. And she is not aware of her force sensitivity, but she is force sensitive. And she's at this orphanage, and she makes a new friend, and this friend ends up disappearing. Okay. And basically it starts to go around that there is this figure is coming and stealing these kids. Well, so it ends up, they portray it kind of like almost like a vampire in the way they talk about this character, okay?
Yeah.
It's kind of the feeling you get is this like vampire-ish type character.
Darth Nihilus.
Yeah. And so what it ends up being is eventually she starts to realize that it's like a force sensitive thing and that this character is taking force sensitive children. And come to find out, it's the Grand Inquisitor.
Ooh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
The Grand Inquisitor is the one that's coming, which actually makes sense canon-wise, because we know that they were stealing force-sensitive children.
Yep.
The Inquisitors were. And so it makes a lot of sense for canon.
On a side note for my own edification, but also for our listeners here, does this book have a central timeline that these fables come from, or just spread out?
Spread out.
Okay.
So personally, I would assume this story is in between 3 and 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would have to be before much of Rebels, because we know the Grand Inquisitor's fate in Rebels.
Precisely.
So, anyways, what's also interesting, though, is Kira Vantala shows up, and she is a Jedi.
Interesting.
And she basically ends up protecting this girl and fights off the Grand Inquisitor. And I think, I'm trying to remember if she takes her or not. I guess it doesn't really tell you. To me, I think it kind of leaves the story open for more between this girl and this Jedi. But once again, another Jedi that escaped Order 66. Just another one added to the books.
Right.
I personally feel like this story is canon. I really think it is. Now, some of the way they describe certain things in the story were to, of course, add that spooky fable element to it.
Yeah.
But I think that the actual story itself did happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
yeah, it sounds pretty plausible to me, and it fits the timeline pretty well. Like, obviously, I didn't really read it fully myself, but just from what you're describing, it very well could fit.
Yeah, and it's a very great story. I would highly encourage you guys to pick up this book and read it. So the next one's called Buyer Beware. This one, obviously, it takes place in the sequel trilogy due to the fact that we are in Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities on the 2. If I can get it all. And we get a First Order diplomat is the main character, and this name's Sloken. And Sloken goes there and purchases a mask that he has on his wall. What's neat about this is this mask is actually on the wall there when you go to Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, he puts on this mask, and he's thrown into a vision of the previous owner. And basically, this owner is killed, okay?
Yeah, I don't know if this is something to do with Jim Carrey or if it's a JoJo reference.
Yeah. But
Continue.
as it goes on, like he continues to see different people doing certain things, and they gain like a fortune, okay? And so he starts to see him do it. So he decides he's going to put on this mask and go and kill somebody to get their fortune. And basically at the end, he realizes he puts on the mask and he sees his own death come. Ooh. And so he gets killed. And then the mask gets returned to back to the wall. So this one's very more like,
definitely a fable story.
Feels more legends, but you also have to think about the Sith element there, because a lot of Sith masks had ways of doing that kind of thing, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And we know like there was Momin who lived inside of this mask. So that being said, there could be a Sith element there. It could be real. And when he died, the mask just ended up back there at the store. But anyways, another really neat story. The next one we get here is the predecessor. And this is the one that I really wonder. This one I have a harder time believing is real. This takes place during the original trilogy. We get Darth Vader in this one. And basically this guy, he gets promoted after his superior disappears. And he gets promoted into that position. And basically he starts like waking up in the middle of the night, and this guy is like choking him. Okay. And
Nice.
and then he'll see that guy that was disappeared and it's basically like telling him that he's gonna die and all this stuff.
Spooky.
And basically it goes he keeps seeing it and he goes crazy, like he loses it after a while, and then Vader ends up killing him. Ooh. And so that one I don't really buy that it happened that way.
Right.
Because we get Force ghosts, but why would we get some random Imperial guy as like a ghost? I don't know if I believe
right,
that.
Exactly.
So that, and I didn't really like that one very much. Then we get Blood Moon. Blood Moon was actually a pretty cool story. It's kind of like tells like a werewolf story mixed with like maybe a little bit of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they're on this strange planet called Lupol, and basically let's see. Let me see if I can find some information on it so I can get it right here. The story takes place on this which orbits a dying star known to once have the purest heart of Kyber, but presently bleeds solar flares and other deadly emissions, making any expedition to the planet a high risk. And so basically that they find that bleeding Kyber crystal has a way of making people go crazy. And then like they just like kill everyone that's around them. And so we get into the story of this, and there's this group of people that are there together. And eventually basically one guy does turn into like he just goes crazy and starts killing everyone. And this other guy, which is he's already kind of a wolf type alien. I can't remember what their names are.
Oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. But I do know what you're referring to though. So
it like kind of makes him crazy, but I guess he kind of can deal with it. And so they're like, this one girl's left. She's the only one that survived. It's basically kind of just a horror story. She's running through trying to survive against this guy. And she's running to the ship. She's about to get taken out though, because he's too fast. Well, this wolf guy, which you think is already gone, actually is still alive, and he comes through and stops this bad guy. And then they all, so like him and this girl, they go back on the ship and they're flying away, and then she looks over and he's turned evil too. And that's how it ends.
You gotta be kidding me.
So I don't think that story is real, because how would they be able to tell it? Because it sounds like everybody dies.
Unless he came back too and just realized.
Well, I guess that's true.
He was admitting his crimes before a grand jury, and they just.
That's true.
Oh,
I will say it's now been like over a month since I read this book, so I'm probably telling some of this wrong, but I'm doing it by memory here.
My gosh.
Now this one was really cool. It's called The Dark Mirror. This one, I think, is actually a story that took place a long time ago. So maybe even during the High Republic, who knows for sure. But
yeah,
we get this Padawan named Saul Magra, and he had a master named Nil Idith, and Nil Idith was one of like the greatest in the Order. Okay, they considered him to be like the best there was, the best around, and he always wore this amulet that was like a small piece of wood with a Kyber crystal embedded into it, and so he always wore it. And a phantom killer began wreaking havoc on the lower levels of Coruscant. And his master ends up like taking care of this guy, defeating him, and ends up being, that was like one of his legendary things, that he was able to get rid of this Phantom Killer.
Yeah.
And as it goes on, he feels like he can't live up to this master who was so highly esteemed and all of these things, but he wants to be like him as much as possible. And a lot of people expected him to be like him.
Right.
And so anyways, this killer shows back up. And so he's very confused, and he doesn't understand, because he thought he had gotten rid of him. And, he's kind of, he'd taken on the mantle of his master. He's wearing his necklace now too. And so he's kind of like this second version of him, right? Or that's what people want him to be. So of course they have him go to try and take out this Phantom Killer that's in the streets of Coruscant. And he can't find it. He tries and tries. He can't find it, and he doesn't feel like he's worthy to bear the legacy anymore. And basically, he just becomes more and more fragile with it all, and he finally finds his robe in tatters.
Like his personal robe?
Yeah.
I know. I already know what the end of this story is. I've already called it. I already called it in my mind. The crystal is making them crazy. Yep. And they're going to kill everybody.
So basically, he experiences a vision of the murder in progress, and he discovers there that he's the killer and he's even got like the yellow Sith eyes in this vision. And the amulet turns out to be some like it ended up being a place where they poured out their emotions. So his master would take that and wear it, and he would pour out all of his emotions into it. And so it was like a catalyst for the dark,
like a soul gem off of
right.
Of Skyrim.
And so but because of that, it would transform him basically at night into this murderous monster. And so when he took it, he had no idea he was doing it, but he was the Phantom Killer, just like his master had been.
I called it.
And man, the way that the story tells it though is just so good. Yeah. And that just kind of reveals it piece by piece.
That's awesome.
It's a really good, cool. And it's just think about that. Like we're talking about a Jedi Master and a Padawan, a Jedi Master that was held in very high esteem, who's at night going around murdering people. Yeah. In the underground of Coruscant.
So
like
crazy.
It's actually a pretty neat story when you think about it, but pretty dark as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I tend to believe this one. But I think this is one of those things that might get touched on later as time goes on. We might learn more about that story.
I definitely don't see that as something that's like impossible.
Right.
I don't know. We've never really heard of anything like that though. Like anger, emotions being put into a crystal and then somehow it bleeds out and affects other people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But then again, that kind of gives some merit, because then the previous story, as you're saying, that kyber crystal on the planet was bleeding out. Yeah. So who knows?
And then we get the story called The Gilded Cage, which is the focus on it is actually about a Night Sister. And basically they want to defeat Darth Kaldoth, which we actually get a story of Darth Kaldoth in Myths and Fables, which is his previous book. And so basically they want to take him out, and so they want to kind of weaken him. And Darth Kaldoth is nearly defeated by the Jedi at one point, and so they want to like use that as his new vulnerability and how to take him out. And so they select this Night Sister called Zeldin is to basically begin a slow assault on the mind of Darth Kaldoth. And Zeldin has to like tread lightly to avoid detection over a long period of time to slowly like spread her influence on him. Okay. Yeah. And so Zeldin witnesses a bunch of different things. He ends up killing his apprentice, which is in the previous novel. And I hope we get more stories about this Sith, because he's very interesting, and his story is not over yet. So anyways, he goes on to she keeps trying to do different things to him, but the thing is he's always one step ahead, and he realizes what's going on, and so he keeps stopping it. And basically he's reversed that slow, steady approach onto her. And the story ends with Zeldin cut off from the Night Sisters, and she's trapped in eternal torment in Darth Caldon's mind, because he let her into his mind and then trapped her there. He knew from the beginning that she was trying to get into his mind and then trapped her. That's
actually pretty sick.
And in the first story, back in Myths and Fables, he decided he was too good for his master, and so he was trying to take out his master, like all Sith do.
Well, yeah, naturally,
but it didn't work at all, right. And so he ended up defeating him. So Darth Caldon, or Caldoth, is still a character that like we can learn more about, and so I hope that we do eventually get more stories about him, because he seems to be quite the Sith Lord. Like he seems pretty good from what the stories they've told on him.
Be able to trap someone in your mind and all that. That's pretty nuts.
And I do totally think this one's canon, because this is now the second story we've gotten about Darth Caldoth, and the stories line up together. So I do think this is a canon story.
Yeah.
Then we get A Life Immortal. And this one tells the story of another Sith Lord. What's cool about this Sith Lord is she actually has a sickle blade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a lightsaber, but it's shaped in the form of like a sickle.
Right.
So it's kind of cool. And it's Darth Noctis, and Darth Noctis is seeking the path to immortality.
Yeah.
And basically, she ends up going to Exegol to find this. Yeah,
so they actually mentioned Exegol.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So she goes to Exegol, and upon her arrival there, she's greeted by like this like golem-like creature.
Yeah.
And it immediately begins assisting her, and the creature leads her to the text she's looking for, and Noctis begins her expedition toward the secrets of immortality. And I think this takes place pretty far back. Maybe even like Knights of the Old Republic, like far back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of course they don't say really anything, but I think it's pretty far back. And so she eventually deciphers the ritual that she must undertake to reach immortality. And part of the ritual, blood sacrifice, is demanded. Now, what's interesting about this is it's very similar to what Palpatine wants Rey to do.
Yeah, well, that's true, right? To massacre the master.
So once she takes the life of the creature, because the creature basically is like, I'll do it. I'll be your sacrifice.
Yeah.
And
kind of weird.
yeah. So she she kills this creature as part of the sacrifice, and what happens is she actually turns into the same creature.
Oh, no way.
And what happened was it was actually her master was the creature. And
wow. That's crazy.
Basically she got tricked into being taken out by him because she wanted.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like this may not be the right example, but it's kind of like Olympus or whatever, where like it may not be Olympus, but it's the one. It's like the story, the old Greek story, where like he was holding up the whole earth, and he's like, "You can't do this. You're not strong enough." Mm-hmm. He's like, "Okay, let me try." And then he hands him the earth. He picks it up. And he's like, "Ha! Now I'm free. You can. You can't. Right.
So what's interesting about this story. And this is the one that I really, when I ended, I was just like, okay, this is interesting because this was a way to immortality. Of course, it didn't work. It didn't work like she thought it was going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she's alive, I guess, but she's this, like, weird creature thing. And I don't even know that she's going to always live. Like, he wanted wanted her to do it to escape it, right? Because he was like, he wanted his life just to end than to be this little creature thing.
Right, yeah.
So my question is, what is this in comparison to what Palpatine planned to do?
Yeah.
Was Palpatine wrong on what he thought would happen if he were to be killed? Or because he wanted to be killed, and then Rey would end up being the basically he would. It kind of sounds like he would have taken over her in a sense, right? Or something like that.
It does sound something that, or maybe like I said, it could be just he was mistaken on how it worked because he didn't have the full understanding or something. I don't know. Like
so it's one of those things like, could something like that have actually happened had he been struck down?
Yeah.
Or was the ritual completed by then? And maybe that's the thing. It wasn't. They didn't have all the right information yet.
Right.
Which then created this creature instead.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like whoever kills the creature gets the curse passed on to them, and they're stuck in it.
Yeah, because it's like this incomplete cycle that just keeps reoccurring.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like this one's probably real because it does take place on Exegol. It does end up on Exegol.
Yeah.
I think it talks also about like seeing a bunch of test tubes and stuff, which when I first read that, I thought, oh, this is after Rise of Skywalker because it's talking about like the Snoke test tubes. Apparently, though, the test tubes must have been there before Snoke, and they just used them to make Snoke.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because I don't think this would be after... I just don't think that would make any sense,
it
right?
could be pre-Rise of Skywalker, post Return of the Jedi, because he goes to Exegol at the moment of his death,
I think the throne is there, though. I think they see the big throne.
Huh. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I guess that would still...
Because it just depends on how fast Palpatine, quote-unquote, manifested after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a good question.
But anyways, so those are all the stories in it.
Yeah.
Very interesting stories,
cool.
though.
Very cool.
Unlike what we normally get in a Star Wars book. And that's why I wanted to talk about it. For those of you that are intrigued by it, I highly encourage you to go pick it up. The book is not that long. Again, these are short stories.
Yeah.
They're easily digestible. They are not super hard to read like some of the adult Star Wars novels are.
Right.
These are more like YA writing style, so they're easy to pick up and read and read it fairly quickly.
Right.
So I would highly suggest it, and plus it's just really cool. Like when you're holding it, like it's just a cool looking book.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty cool. Yeah.
And it has some cool art in there as well.
Some
really neat pictures. Actually, you should look at the pictures.
Yeah, well,
they got some cool ones in there.
Nice.
But but yeah, so that's it. I would rate this a 5 stars actually for me.
Wow, 5 out of 5, huh?
Yep. Yeah, I would. It's really good, and I just really enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't need it to be some deep end canon novel. It's just like a fun new take on Star Wars. Having some of those little horror elements to it was fun, and but also kind of showed. I think what I really liked is that it got you to see more like Sith Lords and to see some new Jedi and stuff in situations that we've not yet seen.
Yeah,
and it's just cool.
I really like the pictures.
Yeah, it's got cool pictures, doesn't it?
Well, I'm not going to go through all of my questions as I typically would because you went, very detailed and stuff like that. But overall, how has this book changed your viewpoint of the Sith? And how has this how has this book changed your viewpoint of Star Wars and the universe as a whole? Has it expanded it? Has it done anything to you?
So the Sith itself, I wouldn't say it's necessarily changed anything for me about the Sith. It's... the Sith do what the Sith do, and they kind of fall into the same traps as usual in this. Other than, I will say Darth Kantoth is quite menacing and quite cunning, and we've not yet seen how he eventually gets defeated. And I think we'll have to see the rest of that story because we've now seen him twice, and both times it's about someone trying to kill him, and both of them fail. So, we got to continue that story, right? Somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
I think George Mann will most likely eventually finish that.
Yeah.
So
as the universe as a whole, though, what's your thoughts?
As a whole, I think that some of this could have a big impact, kind of like this large Kyber sun that was affecting people.
Yeah.
If that's a real thing, that could have huge implications for the universe of Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, just learning about new Sith Lords, learning about a highly esteemed Jedi Master that potentially was actually a mass murderer is another interesting thing that they could touch on later in canon and other places.
Well, the ability for their minds to be manipulated by some kind of pent up emotion or whatever. That's crazy.
Right. And and it's so interesting because everyone saw him so perfect because he hid all of it in that, all of his flaws, all of his anger and emotions and stuff into this kyber crystal.
Little did he know the repercussions that would come.
And then and then like seeing more of the Grand Inquisitor going into an orphanage and stealing kids again is another big thing there, and just the horrible things that they were doing to these young children. And so, overall, I'd say it really, as long as the stories are true, which I guess maybe we'll never know for sure.
Right, yeah.
But if they are true, then I think a lot of them actually do have some fairly big implications for just the universe as a whole.
Yeah, it definitely sounds pretty crazy. Some of them kind of like, whatever. But
right.
But if like some of these are true, it could, like you said, I mean, it could have some very big changes in the future of storytelling for Star Wars. And some of them are probably not going to be able to make real as cool as it would be. I'm not going to name one specifically, but just whatever that may be, right? Yeah. Because you're going to think like, well, why didn't they use it here in this story? Why did and all the trilogies and all the animations and stuff? Why didn't they use this here? Or why didn't they go there? Or why did they never know about it? Some of it may not be super real. Maybe some of it's secret and they never found it yet. Who knows, right?
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think Darth Kardoth would be a really cool one to get more stories about. And there's the guy with the sickle blade.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. Very interesting.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Do you have any other questions, Braxton?
Honestly, most of mine, you've already touched on, and we're already sitting at an hour and 30. We knew it was gonna be long today.
We knew it was gonna be long,
but
hopefully it hasn't been too much of a drag for you guys.
What a drag!
I apologize if it was.
Anyway, so I think just from your description, it sounds like a great book. I mean, it's not.
It's really fun, yeah.
If it's something, it's definitely something I would like to read. I don't know if I'd go out and purchase it myself, but.
Well, but would you do that for any of them other than maybe the High Republic?
Yeah. Only the High Republic, so.
But we want to thank you guys so much for the continued support and listening to us blabber on about Star Wars for a long time and
way too long.
But you guys know what you're getting into by this point.
Exactly.
So, but go like us, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We do weekly news there, polls. We got a poll on there right now. You can go do. Actually, it won't be on there by the time you listen to this, but
not, yeah.
Maybe we'll put a new one on there.
Yeah.
And of course, lots of discussions and more. And we want to hear from you guys. Want to hear your thoughts. Always feel free to comment on when we post an episode. Comment on there your thoughts on the episode. We love to see those. Anything you guys would like to see or hear us talk about. We're always open to that. But also follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. We would love for that. And we thank you for listening. And join us next week for episode 34. Yeah, which when you guys listen to episode 34, we'll hopefully have already done or are doing our first gaming live stream with Star Wars Squadrons. That'll be sometime, most likely on Saturday. Be checking out Facebook for more information on that. But until next time, may the Force be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.